Hello, everyone. A very good evening to everyone watching. Welcome to this part of the Exploration Week, organized very graciously by BrainX Academia. This is Mihir, and today I will be presenting on the topic of the psychology behind belief formation. Now, belief, right? You can think of the song by Cher, Believe, or something like that. And beliefs are something that all of us have. They are something that we don't think a lot about, and something that are such a common part of our life that we've never really thought about in detail, right? It's just something that is so so common to you, something you do every day, that you never really go behind the scenes, right? You don't think about how it comes into place, what are different factors that influence the process of your belief formation. And yeah, it's just something that's not very talked about, and that is exactly why I've chosen this topic to present about. So, before we get started on our main topic, first I would like to tell you a little bit more about myself. So, as you know, my name is Mihir, and actually, this topic of the psychology behind belief formation is something that is very familiar to me. Now, you might ask, why such a niche topic or something so specific is special to me, right? So, I recently participated in the John Locke Essay Competition, the Global Essay Prize by the John Locke Institute, which consists of academicians and professors and professionals from the University of Oxford. And it's basically a very long process. You choose a topic and you write about it, you discover about it, you research about it, and that is how it all falls into place. So 3 months ago, I, participated in this and I won the commendation award. So out of 19,000 participants, there's very few people in each category that get awards. So yes, I'm a 12th grader from Hyderabad, and as you know, as you can see on info, psychology is something I really feel for and something I'm really passionate about, right? It's a part of my life, and I incorporate it in everything I do. So now, with my introduction done, we will now get started with the psychology behind belief formation. Now, okay, I like to explain things in a way that I would like to explain to someone who doesn't know anything about it, right? Now, I'm speaking to you about belief formation. Now, what if I'm explaining this to someone who doesn't even know what a belief is, right? So, I like to really start from the basics, from the grassroots level. So, what is a belief? Now, there is a lot of text in in my presentation, but you really don't have to read all of that, right? It's just an in-depth explanation. If you wish to read all of that, you can, but if you don't, you don't. You can just focus on what I'm saying or the pictures, perhaps. Now, beliefs are a system of individual understanding and mental processes. Now, as when you break this down, right, a complex system. There's many. It's a multifaceted thing. Individual understanding, it is something that is unique to each and every person. Everyone has their own understanding of different things and mental processes. um, there, as the name suggests, there's many mental processes, processes in your mind that lead to a belief being formed. Every person has different, has a different way of life, a different form of life, and different things that they do, and different stimuli that they perceive every day. So every person who believes has different um, things that influence it. Now, yes, now I've unpacked what a belief is for you. So, if you have to put it simply, a belief is something unique to one person that is influenced by things they do every day. Now, how are beliefs formed? Okay, just take a second to process this mind map. Now, mind maps are also something I love using because they're so handy and they're so easy for you to perceive. Now, as you can see, perception. Sorry for that. So, what is a perception, right? When you perceive something, you basically use your five senses. Now, what are the five senses? Your sense of sight, your sense of hearing, your sense of smell, your sense of touch, and your sense of feeling, right? Those are the five sense organs, as you may know: your eyes, your ears, your nose, your skin, and your touch. Now, when you perceive something, you start to believe things, okay? You might make a supposition, okay? You might doubt something. You might come up with a potential answer to a question. You might suspect something. For example, you touch I touch this laptop and I start to think about it, I feel it, I smell it, I hear it, all of that. Now, this leads to an action. When you suppose that this laptop is made of a metal. Now, how are you going to form this belief? How are you going to confirm it? Okay, you're going to touch it. Okay, you're going to search. You're going to, examine it, right? Now, that is when you think about the perception behind belief. So, as psychology is also influenced by your body as much as it is influenced by your mind, your basic emotions and your physiological component is also very important for this. Okay. Now, what are some basic emotions that everyone feels? Love, like, enjoy, hate, dislike, fear, hunger, thirst. Okay. These are some very basic things that you feel, and these lead to desires being formed. What is a desire? A desire is something that you wish to do, something that you want to do, something that you feel like doing, right? Now, based on how you love or enjoy something, you form your desire. So maybe you love giving presentations. You desire and hope that you give more presentations. Okay, you love speaking, then maybe you want to give a speech in front of a lot of people. Now that ultimately results in that action happening. Okay, you desire to sing, so you end up singing. You desire to be confident, you do something related to that. Okay, maybe you speak in front of a lot of people. Now, this is called the belief desire reasoning. Okay, we have the beliefs which come from perception, and you have the desire that come from the physiology, and these lead to action. Okay, you believe something, you desire to do something, and you end up doing it. Now, let's put it simply. Okay, the final action that you do is influenced by your desire and your belief. So, everything we do, every action we take has a belief behind it. Okay, perception can be defined as an interpretation of stimuli, as I've explained already. Okay, now there is a simple example that I've put here, right? Suppose there is a school going boy who perceives the subject of psychology to be difficult, and he can't understand it when he first reads it. He is going to form a belief in his mind. Okay, he is going to read it, he is going to perceive it, and he is going to form a belief that psychology is a difficult subject. Now, again, this leads to action, right? Maybe he doesn't ever start studying again. Maybe he never wants to study psychology again, right? That is the action that is stemming from this belief of his. Okay, so belief, desire, action. Now, as I've put it, psychology is something that is very complicated, okay? There are many dimensions to each and everything we study when it comes to psychology. Just a second, I'll be back. So there are multiple dimensions to anything psychological, okay? Because, see, as I've already explained, there is a physiological component and there is a component of your mind when it comes to a belief, right? So, this leads to two basic dimensions, which is psychological, your mind, and neurological, your brain, okay? The biological aspect of it. And I have also chosen a third dimension, which is philosophy, okay? Although psychology and neurology are something that you can, um, think about little and just examine yourself and come up with, philosophy is also a very important component to consider. Because, see, these people have been thinking for a long time, okay? Philosophers have thought about it for centuries, for, decades, right? So even before we even called it a belief, there was already someone who was unpacking it and, coming up with reasons for it. Okay. So that is why we also need a historical or a philosophical component for it. Okay. Now let's get into it. Now, this is the psychological dimension. Now, I like to explain things with examples, and hence, this is how we are going to get into the psychological dimension of belief formation. John bought a new car because he wanted one. Okay, he just wanted to buy a car. Now, everything you do, as I said, has a lot of mental or cognitive processes behind it. Now, John bought a car because he wanted to. Now, we are going to unpack the multiple cognitive processes behind it. Okay, first we have the desire. Okay, his desire was that of buying a car. Now, he also had a belief, okay, that the model he saw was the best one he could ever buy. He had a desire of buying a car. Now, when you want to buy a car, you go to many different shops, many different dealers, you touch and feel different cars, you take test drives, and then you form your belief, right? So John wanted to buy a car. So he went to many places, he took a lot of test drives, he just, researched all of his options, and then he formed his belief that this specific model is the best I can buy right now. Now, how did he come to this belief? As I said, he perceived multiple models. He touched them, he felt them, he took drives. He really wanted to make sure that this was, the best option for him. So, now we move to the next part, okay? Finally, after his desire and belief collaborate, he takes the final action of buying a new car. He had a desire of buying a new car and the belief that this specific car was the best. And this resulted in the action of him buying that specific car. Now, this is the most simple way and the most effective way you can explain the psychological dimension, the mind aspect of belief formation. Now, this is the distinction between desire and belief and how they work together. Okay. If I had to explain the distinction between desire and belief, I would say desire is something that you want to do. Okay. It is the basic aspect of every action you take. Okay. You only believe something when you're trying to, search for such stuff. Now, how do you come to that point? Okay. Your first point is your desire to even think about that topic, right? So I'll give you another example to explain this. Suppose you want to buy a new laptop, okay? That is your very first aspect of the whole ordeal of having to do anything with a laptop and buying one, okay? You desire to buy a laptop. Now this leads you to into a rabbit hole of which laptop to buy. Okay, I want to buy a laptop. There are so many options in the market with different, features, different prices, different availability, and all the other aspects that come into the final decision of buying a specific laptop. Desire of buying a laptop and belief. Now, how do you form a belief? Again, you research a lot, you come up with a lot of hypotheses. For example, okay, maybe a Windows laptop is good for me, maybe a MacBook is good for me, right? You examine all your options and then you believe that this specific laptop is the best one for me. Now, you have the desire, and you have the belief. And now you're going to take your action, that is buying a specific laptop. Now this is the end of the psychological dimension of, you know, the belief, desire, reasoning, and the uh, psychological aspect of belief formation. Now we move on to the next part of it. Okay, so when you think of mind, just tell me if you can really, touch your mind. Like, can you feel your mind? Can you locate where your mind is in your body? No. So your mind is basically the psychological component, and your brain is the neurological or physiological component, right? Because a mind cannot be touched, you cannot really feel it, it's more of an abstract entity. However, your mind and your brain have very specific and very interdependent roles with each other. Now, this brings me to the neurological aspect of belief formation. Okay, so again, this is a very famous experiment that was done, and a very specific conclusion that came from that experiment. Okay, you've heard the placebo effect a lot. Okay, what is a placebo effect? Now, let's take the example of a woman who has nausea. Okay, she feels that she wants to vomit, you know, her stomach is paining, whatever, and she just thinks that she's about to vomit and she wants to vomit. Now, it is a very uncomfortable situation. Okay, it is something that is quite it can be quite a serious matter for you, right? It is a health issue, you may never know what has caused it. So we have a lady here who has presented the symptoms of nausea, so she goes to a doctor, right? So when you're sick, a doctor is the only person you believe can help you. You have that you have that unconditional regard for a doctor, you know. When you go to a doctor, when you go to a hospital, the emergency ward, whatever, you know that these people are going to make me all right. So you blindly believe whatever they do. Wait, what did I just say? Believe. Exactly, my friends. Your even such a physiological thing such as a medical condition like nausea has a psychological component to it, right? Your brain only takes certain actions when you believe them to be beneficial to you. So let's get back into this example and really examine what happened in the hospital. Now, this woman had nausea. She presented with nausea to the hospital, and she was desperate for a cure. Now, this doctor proclaimed to have a magical cure to her nausea. And she was so sick. She was so sick and tired. She really just wanted to be all right, okay? So, she believed that this magical cure would cure her magically. Basic, right? She knew that if she took this medicine, she would be all right in no time. So, the magical cure in question was just another drug, was just another medicine. And guess what? It was a drug known to induce nausea instead. It was the absolute opposite of what she wanted. So, this magical cure of hers happened to be completely opposite of what she wanted herself to do, right? She wanted her nausea to stop, she wanted her health to be okay. Now, the doctor presents this magical cure to her and she takes it. If she knew that this was a drug that induced nausea, she would simply believe that it would induce nausea and it would increase and increase and it would get to an extreme. But this magical cure was told and proclaimed that it would make her normal again. I know, guys, it is such an unbelievable thing, but it's true. It really is true. Now, it also depends on who is telling you that this cure is magical. For example, if you went to buy diyas for Diwali, well, a doctor, if you took a doctor's opinion on what diya is best, on what diya, is of the best quality, would you really let that influence your decision? No. However, if the diya seller or a diya maker told you that this diya has the best composition and will last the longest, now that is what is going to influence your belief on what you're going to do. Now, the same way, A diya seller came and told you, take this medicine, you'll be fine, you would just, dismiss that. Now, if the doctor told you that this specific medicine, which you don't know the name of, by the way, is the magical cure, you would simply take it and hope that that was going to work for you. Now, this woman with the nausea took this medicine. For her, in her point of view, it was the magical cure. Okay, she believed that this would make her all right again. So she took this medicine and she was fine. Now, how is that even possible? She literally took a medicine that would induce nausea, right? Now, this is where your belief comes in. Her belief of the drug being the right medicine for her at that point of time was really what influenced her entire her entire recovery from nausea, right? It didn't matter what the composition of that was. Now, what really mattered was her belief. Okay, when you believe it, it happens, even if it is something that is so complex, something so complex like your body. Now, as she took that specific medicine, that syrup, she believed that this was going to make her all right instantly. And this prompted the release of self regulatory biochemicals in her body. Now, it was ultimately not the components of the medicine that made her all right, okay? Your belief is not going to change the composition of the very medicine. Instead, it is going to trigger the release of those chemicals in your mind that are going to influence your bodily feelings. So when she took this medicine, and that ultimately prompted her mind to release chemicals that made her feel like she was okay again, because at the end of the day everything you do is governed by your nerves and your nervous system. And voila, this woman with nausea went to a doctor. Now, the doctor tested her out and gave her a medicine that increased her nausea. But he told her that it was the magical cure. She took this magical cure of hers and it did the exact opposite of what the medicine actually did. She was now okay because she believed the medicine to be the best course of action. She believed the medicine to be the cure, no matter what, the actual composition of it was. And now she was okay. I know, right? It is such a fascinating, you know, theory and discovery. Now, we are done with the abstract and psychological component and with the neurological component. Now that we have the two basic, the two basic facets of your body and your mind, now after you have these two components, people think, okay, these two were presented to the public a long time ago, and this prompted thought in people because at the end of the day, you don't exactly know what your body is doing. It is a belief you have, it is a perception you have. Now, people and philosophers over the centuries, over the millenniums, have debated a lot about what really influences how you believe. Now, this brings us to the next component, the philosophical component of belief formation. Now, what is philosophy, right? Philosophy is something that is more, again, abstract, right? So, this is also something that is completely subjective. Philosophy is something that is completely subjective. It really depends on, again, the beliefs of the people. So now there were many people among the centuries that had different theories. Now I am going to focus on the theory of representationalism. What does this even mean? It's such a long word, right? So we have an existing belief. Okay, you have an existing belief in your mind. Now representationalism says that this belief influences other beliefs related to this topic. I know that was a mouthful. Now, for example, you believe that um, Taylor Swift is the best singer in the world. She's the best performer in the world. Now, that is your base, okay? That is your basic belief. It's the existing belief that you have, okay? In this context, it's the existing belief Q. Now, you already have that in your mind, and this is going to influence everything else you believe. Yes. So, for example, you come across another singer, you watch another concert. The way you believe and perceive that concert is completely dependent on your existing belief about concerts in general. So, maybe you're watching Lana Del Rey concert. Now, are you really going to have a completely unbiased opinion of it? No. You already have that pre existing belief that so and so is the best concert ever. Now, your existing belief that Taylor Swift is the best, Q, and your newly acquired belief and stimulus, Lana Del Rey's concert, are interdependent. Yes. Now, when it comes to interdependence, it doesn't, have to have a direct relationship. It doesn't mean that oh, Taylor Swift is the best, so Lana Del Rey has to be less than her. No, it can actually be the opposite. Now, yes. So when you have that degree of interdependence between these two, when you think that these two are going to have a connection, you are going to, you know, think about them in context of each other. Okay. You're not going to think of them completely as, independent variables. Okay. You're going to think of these two concerts in relation to each other. You're going to think and think and think, and you might as well have a completely different conclusion. Well, you thought so and so singer was the best, but you thought a lot about it in context to each other. You compared those two beliefs, and your final belief was the exact opposite of the original. Maybe Taylor Swift is not your favorite anymore, right? Now, this is exactly what the philosophical school of belief formation believes. Your pre existing belief and your new belief are related and interdependent on each other. Yes, there is also a degree of interdependence, right? Maybe it's not going to completely determine your like or dislike towards something. It's not a yes or no answer. It's really like, okay, maybe this might not be the best, but I'll still watch that concert, right? So this degree of interdependence highly varies from topic to topic. For something like an election, it is very high. Okay, you're not going to have a completely white or beige opinion, right? You have to make one choice in that place. So you're only going to vote for one person at a time, and hence the interdependence on this is completely high. You either vote for one or for the another. It's white or black. Now, for another example, however, for a concert, you don't only have to watch one concert in 1 year. Okay, you can watch how many other concerts you want. So you might have this influence on the sequence of concerts that you watch. Okay, the which concert you watch first is going to be determined by this belief, existing belief. Okay, so the belief that this concert is the best makes you want to watch that first, okay? But you still think the other one is fine. It's good. I like that concert. It's not the best, but I like it. So you're going to watch that favorite and then you're going to watch the other one, okay? It's not a white or black answer here. So to conclude, to philosophical for the means of belief formation, we have an existing belief which is going to influence a new belief. Now, we have discussed three ways of how you form a belief, right? You've already thought about how you're going to form it. But what is also a question is if you can really control what you believe, you know, give it a second, give it a minute. Just think if you can really control what you believe. Can you control what you believe? You probably feel like the person in this picture, a big question mark in your head. Well, fear not, for we have the last topic for this presentation. What is agency? Okay. Are you really in control of your beliefs? Are you really the master of your own beliefs? Let's find out, okay, by an example of how beliefs are formed and how much and to what extent you can really control it, okay? Let's take an example of a person who is under the influence of perception altering drugs or substances. Okay. As we all know, when you consume alcohol, your nervous system slows down and you don't really have control over your body. The same applies to your mind as well. You can't really, have that steadfast grip over what you believe and think. Same goes for drugs that alter perception, cocaine, heroin, all that. Now, let's take an example of a person who is under the influence of such a substance. There's a drunk person in a room. Now, you might believe there is a computer in front of you if you're drunk because you don't really have a grip over yourself. You don't know what's going on. So, you believe there's a computer in front of you. Can we really verify this? No. Is there proof for this? Did you examine the situation and come to a conclusion? No. Did you have a desire here? Yes. Unconsciously, maybe you wanted to see a computer. Maybe you wanted to do something related to a computer. So you hallucinate that there is a computer in front of you. How? Now, it doesn't matter if it is real or not. You still have that belief in your mind. But the real difference here is if you've rationally formed the belief. What is a rational belief? When you really think, you really examine, and then come to a conclusion that a computer is in the room with you. Now that is the difference between the actual, rational thought that, oh, there is something with metal in front of me and it has a light in it. Now that might be something like a computer, or, well, I'm drunk. Something, I see something, I hallucinate that there's something like a computer in front of me. Are they really the same? No. On one hand, you really think a lot. You come up with a desire and you come up with a reasoning. Okay. You have a belief that the computer and you really reason behind it. Okay. Can I really call this a computer? Is this a computer in front of me? Let me think and let me come up with the final belief that there is a computer. On the other hand, it's not the same with a person who is under the influence. Their beliefs are not completely under the reasoning, under the impact and influence of reasoning, right? Now here, it does not have any reason behind it. It is maybe a hallucination. Hence, when you remove the concept of drugs, you really choose because you reason, right? You think and you come up with an argument and you come to your final belief. Now I believe that it is a more voluntary approach because you reason, belief, desire, reasoning. Now, with that, we come to the end of today's presentation. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope you learned something from this. Now, don't forget to tune in to tomorrow's presentation. And with that, we come to the end of the psychology behind belief formation with yours truly, Mihir PS. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope people who are watching this, off live, people who are watching this as a video on YouTube also have some learning from it. Thank you.